So hey guys, welcome to another Warframe video, and today I'm going to guide you through the mastery rank test going from 16 to 20. Now the best thing you can do before you try the mastery rank test for real is to definitely go to a relay, go to the fast travel option, fast travel to Cephalon Cimeris, where you will see all the mastery rank tests are lined up against the wall on the right, so you can practice them before you go and do the real thing. Also, my apologies if I don't sound very enthusiastic, but we're currently experiencing a bit of a heat wave here in Europe, so it's incredibly hot right now and I've been only getting about 4 hours of sleep at best. So the Mastery Rank 16 test is a pretty straightforward defense test. You have to defend a cryopod against 3 waves of enemies, and you also have to survive, because if you die, you will lose one of your 3 attempts. You can use all your weapons and Warframe abilities, and every time you finish a wave, a couple of the pillars that you see around the cryopod will retract back into the ground, making the cryopod more vulnerable for the next wave. Now this test isn't very hard to do, and I was easily able to do it with just Excalibur, Tenura, Accelerator Prime and Nikana Prime. But if you want to make the test really easy, you can bring a Warframe like Frost, who can shield the cryopod with a snow globe, or Limbo and use Cataclysm, or even something like Ember and use World on Fire to kill the enemies basically as soon as they spawn. I would also recommend you go after the enemies rather than waiting for them to come to the cryopod, because there is a set amount of enemies in each wave, and if you just stand around the cryopod, you will make the waves last much longer.
Formidable performance. This test is now complete.
The Mastery Rank 17 test tests your ability to multitask, because you have to kill a set amount of enemies before a very short timer runs out, and you get extra time by melee hitting one of the orbs that will spawn randomly throughout the level. Now the level itself is pretty small, but it has 2 layers and there is a bunch of pillars all over the place. So moving around, especially from one level to the other, may be a little bit more difficult than you would perhaps expect. Luckily though, the orbs will have an objective marker, so they're pretty easy to find. The key to finishing this test is, in my opinion, to just stay calm and kill a couple of enemies as you run from orb to orb. If you start panicking and you start bumping into walls or falling off the map, which is actually really bad because it takes a while for the game to plop you back on, you may actually fail this. This is definitely one of the tests you should try on a relay before you do the real thing. However, you can make this test a lot easier if you bring a Warframe that can do damage on its own, something like Ember with a World on Fire build. And it doesn't have to be Ember, you can bring in something like Equinox as well. This setup allows you to pretty much ignore all the enemies, because the Warframe is gonna kill them on its own, and you can just run from orb to orb, melee striking them for extra time. So if you're having any kind of trouble with this test, I would definitely recommend bringing in something like Ember or Equinox and just focus on the orbs while the frame kills the enemies.
A formidable performance. This test is now complete.
The Mastery Rank 18 test is basically just a harder version of the Mastery Rank 16 test. It's a defense mission once again, so you have to defend the cryopod without dying yourself. You can use all your weapons and Warframe abilities, and every time you finish a wave, a couple of the pillars will retract back into the ground, making the cryopod more vulnerable. The difference here is that you have to go through 5 waves instead of just 3. The waves are a lot tougher, and the cryopod is in a pretty awkward spot. It's on an elevated platform, which makes it pretty hard to see all the enemies coming towards it. I actually managed to lose one of my attempts because I got killed by a Corpus Tech that snuck behind me. And for this very reason, I would once again recommend you bring in something like Frost or Limbo to shield yourself and the Cryopod, or something like Ember or Banshee so you can kill the enemies before they have a chance to destroy the Cryopod or kill you.
This test is now complete.
The Mastery Rank 19 test is probably the reason why you clicked on this video, because this one is awful. I remember being stuck on this test for about 4 or 5 days when I finally got to it. The idea of this test is actually pretty good. You are limited to your melee weapon and you have to melee strike a bunch of orbs which will open up a cell where you will pick up a hostage, and you then have to escort the hostage to the start of the mastery test without being detected. So it's pretty much just an escalation of the Mastery Rank 9 test. The problem here is that this test was designed before they changed the way enemies detect you, which turned this test into a complete and utter nightmare to finish properly. I spent about 30 minutes running this test over and over and over again, trying different routes, and nothing worked. I was actually getting better results by just sprinting and bullet jumping through the whole test while violently swinging my katana around. So the way we're going to do this is with a little bit of cheese. We're going to bring Banshee with a gunblade. I'm using the Redeemer here. Now, while Redeemer on its own is not silent and it will alert the enemies as soon as you fire it, Banshee's passive will make it silent, so you can just stand on the initial pillar and snipe all the enemies before jumping down, melee striking all the orbs, and escorting the hostage. Now you still have to be careful because there is one specific dude on the left, this dude right here, who will see you if he makes it all the way to the edge of the platform. Yes, he will actually detect you from all the way over there and you will lose one of your attempts. And this is one of the reasons why we are choosing it with a gunblade, because the enemies will see you from ridiculously far away, and sometimes, this actually happened to me a few times while I was trying to figure out a good route through this, they will see you through walls as well. So all you have to do here is bring Banshee with a gunblade and snipe all the enemies from the initial pillar. Now, once you kill all the enemies that you can see, you still want to wait on the initial pillar for a little bit because there is a lot of patrols that you can see for only a short period of time. So just wait a little bit and kill all the patrolling enemies as well. Once you're sure that everyone is dead, jump down, melee the orbs, rescue the hostage, and bring it back to the initial pillar that you shot all the enemies from. But be careful, because there is one enemy that I always miss, and I think it's because you just can't see him from this platform, so be careful. He's usually on the bottom platform, right behind the orb on the left. And that's the most annoying mastery test that I've done thus far, finished fairly easily.
formidable performance. This test is now complete.
And finally, the Mastery Rank 20 test tests your ability to maneuver with an Archwing. You have to make it to the end before the timer runs out, and you get extra time by flying through the circles. And I can already hear some people going, Archwing. Well, the thing is, this test is actually very tightly tuned if you fly through every single circle and you only super boost a little bit. But the developers overlooked one tiny little thing with this test. Because you can also do this.
A formidable performance. This test is now complete.
And that's pretty much it for the video, so I thank you very much for watching as always, and I hope the video was helpful. Now, this is the last Mastery Rank video that you're gonna see in a while, because I'm actually Mastery Rank 20 right now, so I have to push my Mastery higher in order to make more videos. But I hope you have enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.